Welcome to the warm-up exercise for the YMI podcast called The Fantasy Restaurant. In here, my guests get to pick their favorite drink, appetizer, main, sides, and dessert. There are no wrong answers. Jenny's meal basically breaks down to bread, but not just bread. There's also more bread, and then a little bit more bread. I've never had anyone set the atmosphere quite like Jenny does. Afternoon drinks with the dolphins was pretty nice, pretty elegant. I'm thinking pinkies up are in order. I hope you enjoy this meal with Jenny. Jenny, thank you for joining me in the Fantasy Restaurant today.
It is my pleasure. It's great to be here, Greg.
Yeah, I'm sorry we didn't have your table ready. It took us a little bit of time. We had to switch to our Zoom restaurant as opposed to our normal Skype restaurant. So hopefully this accommodates amicably.
I hope so. I'm sure it will.
I'm sure it's going to be great. All right. So you are in the Fantasy Restaurant. And in this restaurant, no holds barred, right? Anything goes. It could be food from your childhood, from something you had last week, from your favorite restaurant, from your favorite chef, celebrity chef, family member, something you make. I mean, this could be anything, right? Something you saw on TV, your favorite movie, favorite novel. So none of this has to make any sense. I'm going to start this out with your drink. What are you drinking?
Well, there isn't one single drink, but there are a couple. So the drink that I remember most to start off a meal was an amazing drink, but it was probably, as much as anything ever is, the circumstances as well. So I got this amazing job in Montecito in Santa Barbara, and I was staying at the Four Seasons Hotel, which is a bit nice. And I'd been out all day in this glorious Californian sunshine watching blue whales in the bay.
Wow.
And I got back and my hair was a mess and I was all sunburned, and all the Californians and the other guests were not sunburned because they're not British and they know to take sun cream. I'm not used to seeing the sun that much. I'm from the north of England. So I just took a little bit, and it wasn't enough. So I was a little bit sunburned. My hair was all salty and I was in kind of, clothes that you wear for a boat trip. So I wasn't really very swanky to be in the Four Seasons. But they're so lovely. And they said to me, would you like a drink before, you change for dinner and everything? Presuming that I was going to change, of course, which I was. And they have this cocktail that was award-winning or something. And I had to look it up before I came on your show, because I couldn't remember off the top of my head, but it was the most amazing thing. And it's called a Biltmore Raspberry Smooth. And this is what's in it. There's a special vodka, a raspberry smashed, sparkling wine, and then there's like a sugar rim, but they had like a lavender sprig as well.
Interesting.
And it cost a fortune. And it wasn't huge, but it was so nice. And as I was sitting, sipping this cocktail, looking out to the ocean, I saw a dolphin just opposite the hotel, and I turned to my left and there was a hummingbird, and I just thought California is just the best place on earth, and I really do. I love the States, I love the USA anyway, but California, and then I was told that Santa Barbara is the swankiest part of California and Montecito is the swankiest part of Santa Barbara, and the hotels night. So I guess that there was all of that. But for me, I'd never seen a hummingbird before, and I'd had the best day. So that would be how I would begin, Greg.
That is a hell of a story because I just imagine you there, feeling crusty, a little bit tired, probably run down. And it seems like the heavens opened up, and here was this drink. It sounds like you.
It was the best day because I love whales and dolphins, and we saw 9 blue whales.
Oh wow!
Including a tiny little baby one that was with its mother, which is just insane. And I've been on whale watching trips since, and people actually don't believe me, but there was 9. And they were so exciting that we didn't look at the humpback whale that was on the other side. And then there was a super pod of the dolphins, and it was just the most amazing thing ever. So yes, I was bucket list ticked.
Golly.
Well and truly ticked off. And then it was just like, it was like kind of, and I went in the depths of winter in the UK. So I'd gone to California from grey, cold England. So it really was, it was great.
It was perfect. Perfect timing. Everything came together just right. I like it. Well, it also sounds like you said it was expensive, but it sounds like you paid for an experience there.
Yes.
So well worth it. Because I have problems like buying stuff for myself, like spending money on myself, or at least I traditionally did. I'm better about it now, but I am wholeheartedly open to pay for an experience. So I'm on board with that.
I just want to say as well that if anybody wants to see a picture, I took a picture and put it on my Instagram. So if you go to Instagram at Real People Hacker, you can see a picture. It's way back, so you have to scroll down, but you'll know it's the right one because it's got the sort of sprig of, like, I don't know if it was lavender or rosemary, but there was the sprig across the top of it. There's a pictures of a few drinks on there, but that's the one.
All right, I'm gonna dig for that picture and see if I can put a link up in the show notes for sure. Okay. All right. Well, I'm fired up. Pins and needles. I'm ready to. I can't wait to see what you're gonna do for appetizer. Like, I'm expecting great things. This story should take us about 15 minutes, just on how you pick these jalapeno poppers. So let me have it.
Well, actually, yeah. So, it is got a story to it. It's so a few years ago, before the California gig, but I think, and then there was. I used to work in Northern Ireland in Belfast. And Belfast it's got the most amazing foodie culture, right? It's fabulous restaurants and the people are amazing and the food is amazing. And there was this hotel and I used to work very early in the morning until I'd knock off about 4 p.m. And I never really eat much when I'm doing certain types of work. And I didn't used to eat very much during the day. So I get back to the hotel and I'd order to my room this appetizer called, and it's called prawn cocktail, but I think you guys might refer to it as shrimp.
Shrimp cocktail, yeah.
You know, with the pink sauce and the...
Oh, yeah.
And I was kind of addicted to it. And it became the thing I ate when I got in, and then I ate dinner about 8. But I was hungry, so it was sort of it wasn't quite lunch, it was later than lunch. And ever since, and I had the best time in Belfast, and I made the most amazing friends. But I don't stay in that hotel when I go to Belfast anymore because I don't do the same job and it's a different client nowadays. And ever since then, I've always pursued the perfect prawn cocktail because it was like, you know, the thing that you do when you sign off work and then the evening is your own.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's why that one remains in my mind, because it wasn't just that it was beautifully done. It was beautiful. It's a place called the Old Inn, just outside of Belfast, in Northern Ireland. It wasn't just that it was beautifully done and everyone was so friendly and lovely to me. It was also that, right, okay, you can finish now, you can relax now. Yeah, you've done your job. And so I did, and I ate it, and I was there off and on for about 3 months. And honestly, I think I must have eaten it almost, not every day, but once I got into that habit.
Well, I need a little bit more information. So a little confession here. I'm not usually a texture person, but there's something about like cocktail shrimp or cocktail prawns or however you want to call it. Like for us, we like shrimp is the small stuff. Prawns are like when they get big. I don't know. Like, I don't know if you guys have a distinction or not, but there's something about like boiled shrimp that it's kind of weird to me, like kind of freaks me out a little bit. I need it like in a gumbo and a soup and something else. Just like dipping it in a sauce kind of freaks me out a little bit. So I can't quite get over it, but I'm thinking in my head, maybe this sauce, maybe it's the saving grace. Maybe I could get into it. So describe the sauce to me.
Oh, I mean, it's the most basic thing. It's called Marie Rose sauce. And a friend of mine who's a huge foodie and has done sort of food, like he can stand in as a chef if people are. He doesn't, but he can. And he told me it's just mayonnaise and ketchup with some Worcester sauce and lemon juice, which I was very kind of, as soon as he said that, I realised that was exactly what it was. But of course, this hotel was fabulous, so they'd have made the mayonnaise themselves, and probably it was a tomato reduction as opposed to just ketchup just thrown in. And then, of course, Worcester sauce is the magic ingredient that is spelt completely differently than we pronounce it, but that does kind of bring everything to life. And there's a little paprika on it, iceberg lettuce, little cherry tomatoes, and yeah, it's lovely. I see you make me think about it now. I'm thinking, how long ago was that? And it was a long time.
Sounds like too long.
But I always order it if I see it on the menu. Not always, but I very often order it if I see it on a menu. And pre-COVID, particularly, I was on the road pretty much continuously, but it's not the same. It's not the right one. So yes, so there we go. That's the appetizer.
That's what every drug addict says, right? They're always chasing that first high.
The first high.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, maybe we'll get you there eventually, but. In the fantasy restaurant, you can absolutely have that specific shrimp. And it can be, you just clocked out 5 minutes ago as well. You just clocked out, you walked in the restaurant, right? So it's perfect timing.
Oh, perfect.
Maybe you're doing some work on the beach, got a little sunburned, and then you clocked out, and now here we are. So everything's lined up.
Not in Belfast. Yeah. I would not be sunburned in Northern Ireland, believe me.
Yeah,
There's a reason it's got 40 shades of green, and it's not the sun. I promise you.
All right, so now we are to the bread stroke salad stroke soup portion. What are you gonna pick? Any of those? All of those? Any specific variety of those?
Well, I can tell you another story, which you might not have time. But many years ago, see, a lot of my foodie stories are connected to the places I was in.
I can dig
and
it.
The jobs that I was doing. And I was in Brussels and I was on my own. And I just went to the first restaurant I saw and I ordered, I said, I don't know, just whatever's on the special menu, which you never say in Europe, right?
Oh, really? I try and always do it. Well,
because they'll just... Yeah, but you have, but specify, because what they brought me was this like 11-course tasting menu, and you get like a different drink between courses and a flower, and there was like cloches that you lift and there's fragranced smoke and all this. And I just realised really early on that this was going to cost an absolute fortune. But I was in a really I just wandered in to this swanky restaurant and it was going to cost a fortune, and I was on expenses. I was working for somebody. So I remember this is when I was still working for a company as opposed to do it, to myself. So I used to, my security work is, I've always done, even though sometimes I had a sort of a grown-up job, if you like, a proper respectable job as opposed to the job I do now, which I'm sure we'll talk about. So I text my finance director and I said to him, "Oh my God, Alan, I know I'm in this really expensive restaurant and I don't know what this meal's going to cost, but I'm going to, it's on expenses. I'd already sort of cleared the card." And he said, "That's fine, but tomorrow night you're only allowed a bowl of fries." So I ate this huge restaurant and then the next night I had the fries. But the reason it's connected to bread was because the meal was magnificent, but the bread was a bit, was very small. And it was kind of like little bites because it was a tasting menu, I guess. They weren't trying to fill you up with bread.
Right.
And I mentioned this to a different friend who is a bodyguard. He looks after very famous people. And he was the bodyguard of a very famous TV chef who told him that the mark of a good restaurant is its bread. So how good the bread is will tell you how good the restaurant is. And my favourite bread I would get would probably be a walnut sourdough type of thing. But it's not the bread, it's the butter. And the butter...
Speaking my language.
the butter makes so the bread has to be great, obviously.
Absolutely.
But if you get this type of butter, and the butter that is, and thank goodness I'm seeing it everywhere now. I love that whipped. You know when they whip the butter
Oh,
and
it's fluffy
salt
and
cracked
light.
pepper. Oh, that. So a walnutty kind of sourdough walnut bread, but with some kind, probably just salt and pepper, maybe a little chili. Whipped butter would be fabulous. I wouldn't need soup. I'd be too full for soup.
Because the like when it's whipped like that and it's room temperature, you spread it, it just instantly melts.
And you just want to, you want to sort of dip your finger, which is really poor form, very bad manners.
Oh well, we take the bread, we tear off a little piece, and you just dip it in the butter and take a bite.
Yeah.
Tear off.
It's really you're eating the butter.
Who am I trying to impress, right? You know, at this point in my life, like, look at me. I'm not impressing anybody. I'm just here to enjoy myself. Good.
Well, my boss at the time said, so that was the finance director said I could only eat fries for the rest of the trip. But my boss at the time said to me, I said, it's posh and I'm lowering the tone because I'm on my phone for a start, you know, which you would never normally do, but I was mortified. And he said, insist on chips, so fries. He said, tell them they've got to make you fries. And I didn't want fries because I knew I'd be eating fries for the rest of the week. And he says, and tell them that the drink that you want's a pint. You know, so that you look really, I don't know how you'd say, in our country we'd say chav, but you look really
blue
like
collar.
You don't belong. Yeah, well, I don't know. I never see that as an insult, but you know, you just look as if you're being really rude and uncouth. So like some sort of like the way I feel sometimes when I'm in Scandinavia, and you just feel like they're all like the elves from Lord of the Rings. They're all tall and blonde and elegant and beautiful, and then I'm this, you know, English person turning up like some sort of goblin, ruining the atmosphere.
Oh my gosh! So are we doing walnut sourdough? I've never had a walnut sourdough before, and that sounds. I love sourdoughs. I'm a big sourdough. You know what? I like rye bread too. Like I like a little bite.
Oh,
kind of kick
the
me
best
back.
bread. Again, Irish wheaten bread. Irish wheaten bread. Oh, and they go mad for it. They say, "Do you not want?" They said, "Do you want some bread?" If you eat in a restaurant in Northern Ireland, and it is Northern Ireland as opposed to Ireland. If you eat in a restaurant in Northern Ireland, they'll go, "Would you not want bread?" And I sometimes say, "No, thank you, I'm fine. Yeah, I don't need to." You don't want wheaten bread. And I used to think, why are you so insistent? And then you eat it, and it's kind of got like a they use some sort of like a malt. It's got like a malted sweetness. Oh, and it's a bit like cake.
Oh,
and it's absolutely.
I'm on board with that. I love bread.
I've had it in other places. It's never the same. It has to be Northern Ireland.
You know what? While we're talking about sourdough, I know this is completely tangential, but the other day, I made my wife actually. I didn't do it. I can't claim credit, but she made me a grilled cheese sandwich with sourdough bread. It was the best grilled cheese I've ever had in my life. I would have never even thought to use sourdough, but it was so different and delicious and simple. I don't know. It appealed to me. I grew up like poor. White trash, so I love that kind of stuff. Like it totally speaks to me.
Didn't we all, darling? Didn't we all grow up poor white trash?
Absolutely, bro. Same page. All right. So are you guys soup fans? Like in fancy restaurants, you know, pinky up here. Soup always seems to kind of float in that little middle portion. We don't see it too frequently over here. I didn't know how popular it is for you guys.
Oh, it's always on.
Okay.
I mean, it's always on. And I'm the queen of soup at home. Because usually use up everything in all the vegetables in the fridge. And you make your soup, right? I make a cream of vegetable soup. Never the same twice. And it's always great. And huge, you know, everyone's a huge fan. But I would never order it as part of a meal because I make so much of it at home. It's boring, but also it's too filling for a meal.
Really, I always find like I can't eat soup just as a meal. Like that doesn't work. I gotta have something else. Are you eating just soup? Or are you adding like some kind of sandwich to it, or like a salad or something? Like what are you doing? Just soup?
Yeah, we have basically soup's just a sauce for bread with lots of butter.
Okay.
Really, it's an excuse to eat more butter on
It's a conveyance
a tiny
device.
bit of bread. It's the butter again. I mean, my favourite soup's Chinese sweet corn, egg drop, egg drop soup.
Yeah.
It's like chicken and sweet corn with egg. That's my favourite. But I mean,
Never even heard of that.
I don't know. Oh, it's
You're opening up a whole new world for me over here.
whole new world of British cuisine, except not one of them so far has been actually English.
It's okay. It's okay. You're international. You contain multitudes. I get it. I do as well. All right. So I don't know if this is your favorite portion. It is a lot of people's. What are you picking for your main dish?
Oh God, this is so hard. So since I knew that you were going to ask me this, to pin this down, so and this is going to take up so much time. I don't know, but anyway, there are three things that I've been asked this. I was asked. They call it your death row choice, right? Which is the similar thing, right? This is much nicer. That it's a fancy restaurant as opposed to death row, because we have a restaurant in Liverpool called the Death Row Restaurant, and it cooks, meals from people who are on death row, which is terribly bad taste, but quite funny. But anyway, I have three. So the first one is a really good spaghetti bolognese. So spaghetti with a pork beef, preferably veal ragu.
Okay.
And the reason is that's the first meal that I got used to eating it as a child, because it was the first sort of non-English food that I ever got fed and that actually tasted of something. And a neighbour just used to make them. She used to make hundreds and hundreds of portions of them. My mum used to ask her to do it. And she'd freeze them for me in these little yogurt tubs in the freezer, because no one else in my family would eat it. My mum and dad would never touch it because it was not British, and I had older parents, and they just didn't know what you do with something like pasta. It just wasn't a thing. But I loved it. So that'd be my first one. I love spag bol, and I judge people on the spaghetti bolognese quite harshly. The second one, I love, and I'm boring, but I like a good steak with rustly crispy fries covered in sea salt and a good sort of hollandaise or béarnaise sauce.
All right. So whenever you're getting a steak, how are you having that cooked?
So a vet could revive it.
Oh my God. Gotcha. So it's still mooing a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. Very raw.
Cut a slice off and then ride the rest home and all that. I'm joking to any veggies or vegans. No, I like it pretty rare, sort of pretty rare. Not raw, not blue, but quite rare.
Okay.
And the best steak I ever, and the reason, and I would have said Ireland again for that, or the States. I've had fabulous steaks in America. But I recently went to Reykjavik in Iceland. And an American person on the plane who was from, I think, Denver, said, "You've got to have beef in Iceland. It's the best beef in the world." She said, "I'm an American and I'm telling you to do that." And so I did, and she was right. It was amazing.
So would you say, fries or steak fries? Like in my head, I'm picturing, I guess, what you guys would normally consider chips, right? Like kind of the thick boys, a little bit bigger. Or I'm
only saying fries because you're American, because we would never say that, right? So we'd say chunky chips.
Chunky chips, okay.
Which are the thick kind of potato ones.
Yeah.
But I'm not a fan, because in restaurant, and I've eaten in fabulous restaurants, but even in fabulous restaurants, they start going towards being a potato. They make them so chunky, it's a spud.
That's what I like. I like it to still kind of taste like a potato. It's weird, but that's...
So to me, that's a bit more. That's a roast potato. That's a deep fried potato, and I'm not as keen on that. But no, I like a chip that looks like McDonald's fries, but is done better, obviously. Not that there's anything wrong with McDonald's fries, but it's that shape and size, or preferably even thinner and longer, like a shoestring.
Oh, okay.
And then covered in crystals of sea salt.
Sea salt, just sea salt. So sometimes we go to like steak restaurants or something like that over here. You've got kind of like a fancy seasoning on the fries with just a little bit of like spice tiny bit. Is that for you or no?
No, I don't. You see, I think
Just
that's the
sea salt?
devil. What are you doing? No,
Gildan and Lily. I get it. Okay.
I've had steak. I went for steak in Atlanta, and it was fabulous. But gosh, it was big. It was just gigantic. It was lovely though.
Yeah, down here in Texas, our portions are pretty big too. So like if you there's a restaurant in town that I've got in mind here. Would you order like a chicken fried steak? Which is basically like a pounded flat steak. They batter it, deep fry it.
Why is it called chicken if it's steak?
Well, it's chicken fried because it's like traditionally how you would do chicken when you're gonna deep fry it.
You mentioned Texas. One of my favorite things I ever ate was Mexican food in Texas. That was fabulous, absolutely fabulous. Like fish tacos and it was gorgeous. Loved it. Love Texas.
There is a lot of Mexican food. There's a lot of Mexican food. There's a lot of Mexican food. Tex-Mex
in America.
It's all kinds. I mean, it's such a fusion of flavors down here. It's awesome. But I digress. Like when you get the chicken fried steak, if you order the small, it's just inside of the plate. So it'll be just inside of the plate. If you get the large, it hangs over the edges of the plate. So the portions are rather large here.
That was one of the things. The first time I ever went to America, I was actually one of the first times I went to America was Texas. And I was sitting, I'd had some breakfast and I was sitting in the restaurant and this lady said, "More coffee, dear?" And I went, "Yes." And she just topped up with a coffee. That just doesn't happen in the UK. And I was just, these people are the nicest people in the world. She's just going to keep giving me coffee. I was sort of thinking, if I keep drinking it, does she keep pouring it? Oh, yes. Love it. God bless America.
I met a guy that was Irish over here one time, and he was saying one of the things that surprised him the most was he went to like a fast food restaurant and they just had the soda fountains out and then you could get as much as you wanted. You could keep going back. He was like, "That's crazy." Like I filled it up and left.
We do have it here now, but like everyone's, it's such a novelty. What surprised me, sorry, I know we're talking off topic now, but I tell you the thing that surprised me most about America and restaurants, or about just something. I was in Boston and we'd eaten at this fabulous restaurant in Boston and gone for a drink before, retiring in a sports bar. And they gave me, first of all, you get free peanuts, which is a little bit mad. Like nobody's ordered that. And also peanuts, like over here, you're not even allowed, like kids aren't allowed to take peanut butter into school. It's but this was sort of pre that. And then, so I was drinking my beer and I had the peanut shells and a little pile on the table because I'm a well brought up girl and I wouldn't just, and then someone said, "No, you need to throw them on the floor." And I went, "Well, no." And they said, "Well, look at the floor." And the floor was covered in peanuts. And I said, "Well, I'm fine, thank you." And this very British show, "Well, I'm fine, thank you." And the next thing you know, someone threw one at my head. And there was a peanut shell, a very good-natured, delightful peanut shell fight. And I just thought, what strange land is this? So yes, very good fun. Anyway.
You did notice the interesting texture as you were walking into the restaurant?
Well, yes, but I wasn't going to partake. I'd assumed there'd been some sort of, stag party that just left.
Yeah.
And they hadn't quite encouraged to clean it. I don't know.
We're a bunch of savages over here.
You said that. I did not say that. And then the last one is my local dish in Liverpool. And I couldn't, if I really had to never eat anything again, we have a dish in Liverpool which is a variation that everyone has. And it's called scouse. And it's like a beef stew, a slow cook beef stew. And it's very simple.
Slow cooked beef stew. Now
But it's scouse, it's not any beef stew. It's
very specific.
So people from Liverpool, where I'm from, are called scousers. Right? So the Beatles were scousers. And we are named after that dish, which everyone eats. Liverpool is a port. People came over from Scandinavia primarily and brought, that's where it supposedly comes from. And it's just seasoned beef, fried and seasoned flour, onion, carrot, and actually that's really it. And potato, and in a gravy and just cook, slow cooked for hours and hours and hours. But there are little secret tweaks, but not much. Like no wine, no tomato paste, no garlic. Luxury, you might put celery in, but not much of it. Just to make sofrito to start it off, but nobody really does that. And I've tried it. Right, I've tried to make it better by adding herbs. And no, it has to be exactly this, and then cook for a long time. Yeah.
Do you think? So that's something that like I kind of struggle with too sometimes. It's like I could take this recipe that I know and I could add this thing, but it's not right. And I wonder, is that like just because it's like tied to my nostalgia, right? Like just as a kid,
it's 100% tied to nostalgia. And I never thought I could recreate what my mother made. And then when I followed it exactly and didn't do anything else, it's exactly what Mum made. And you eat it with pickled red cabbage, big chunks of bread and butter again. And that's what you eat it with. Yeah, that's what you eat it with. But that's nostalgia. So that's it. And I can't choose between the three of them, but I suppose if I had to, it'd be Scouse.
Okay. Yeah, I heard you describe yourself as a Scouser, and I was like, what does that mean? And so I looked it up, and I was like, wow, you guys are named after a stew. That's interesting.
Well, but we see it as a metaphor for the city because as a port, we have lots of diaspora. We have people. We have the oldest Chinese community in Europe. We were always a place where people passed through, and some of that was unfortunate because it was a big port. It was part of a triangle in the days of slavery,
right? Slavery.
Which the city acknowledges now and tries to we have the Museum of Slavery and things in Liverpool, but it added to the culture. But also people passed through for years. So you guys became like a big melting pot sort of thing. So it's like a melting pot. That's what we like to think.
Yeah. That's I'd always heard that about New York City, and I finally got to visit it. I think it was, oh my gosh, 2018, 2019. The long ago when we could still do that stuff, and it was pretty incredible. I absolutely loved it. And you've traveled around a lot. I'm sure you've popped through there a time or two.
Did you know actually New York's one place I didn't get to yet?
And there's plenty of time. You will.
Yes.
You still will. All right. So we've got quite an interesting buffet, I guess you could say, because we've got a lot of stuff on here. What are you going to do as a side with this stuff? I know you'd already talked about like the Scouse. You have the pickled red cabbage, and we've got bread that's going through this entirety of this. Apparently, I'm just going to hollow out a giant loaf of bread and just put all of your... I mean, we don't even need a plate. We'll just forego that. We'll just hand you that.
Let's carb it.
Yeah.
Aside for all of them would be spinach.
Spinach. Why does everybody feel like they have to add something healthy? Do you genuinely enjoy spinach, or you just?
I love spinach.
Okay.
Steamed spinach. Love it.
Steamed spinach.
Buckets and buckets and buckets of it.
Really?
Even though it makes your teeth feel funny. Yeah. Just lots of pepper. That's
lots of pepper. I was going to ask, are you putting anything on there? So just pepper. All right. You say lots. I'm just going to put a little bit, and I'm going to put some on the side because to taste is, that's different for everybody.
Okay.
All right. So sides were quick. No interesting story associated with spinach. All right. So what are we going to do for dessert? Are you even a dessert person?
Yes. Look at me. Of course I am. So I love. I would be drinking a Montrachet with all of that.
Montrachet.
And then pudding, a creme brulee, and stop messing around with creme brulee. This is just a basic, very well done creme brulee. I will allow a raspberry.
A raspberry, single raspberry.
Perhaps two if I'm in a really good mood, but not really necessary, is it?
What's the best part of the creme brulee? What does it for you?
Well, it's the crack, isn't it? Of the sugar. But it still needs to be still hot. So still hot sugar, very cold custard in it and nothing else. I don't want anything else with it. I don't want alcohol-laced creme brulee. I don't want coconut milk creme brulee. I don't want anything else. I will allow a raspberry or two as a garnish. That's it. I don't want anything else, and that will do. And I can eat a decent, like a good size one. But that's it.
All right. Now, in my fantasy restaurant, creme brulee is what I put on there as well. And
Yeah.
the first restaurant I ever had creme brulee at, and I agree, I love the snap, but for me, it's that combination of the hot sugar with the creaminess of the pudding inside, just like that, the textural interesting. It's so good. But what they would do is it was almost like a pancake batter that they would take, and they would like put it in a squeeze bottle, and they'd pour out like a little lattice work, look like a little ladder, and they would cook it, and it would be thin, and it would like stand up on its own. It's almost not quite a like American cookie texture, right? But somewhere in between waffle and that, and eating that in combination, so delightful. It's the texture,
So good.
sweetness, the crunch. It added extra crunch. I'm just saying, if you're interested, I'll put a little waffle ladder on the side.
Awesome.
Take it or leave it. I'm gonna put it over there.
Oh god, I'm gonna turn my heater down.
So what is Montrachet? You said it like I should know what that is.
Oh, it's just like a really nice dry white wine.
Dry white wine. All right.
Nothing too gooseberry-ish like a Sauvignon. There we go. So there we go. Through food, huge insight into the psychology
You think so?
of your guests.
I think like I said earlier, you contain multitudes. You seem to be a combination of all of these interesting experiences. You ready for me to read the menu back really quick?
Yes.
Make sure. I mean, I say quick. This is going to take me a minute. So we're doing. Our drink is going to be Montecito from Santa Barbara, or rather no. You were in Montecito.
Biltmore.
That was the restaurant, and it's going to be the Biltmore Raspberry Smooth, right?
Yeah.
All right, and I'm going to dig it up on Instagram, and I'm going to somehow clone that precise one, and it'll be that one. And then we're going to do, we're going to Belfast to the Old Inn, and we're going to get you a prawn cocktail.
Yeah. The Old Inn at Crawfordsburn prawn cocktail.
Just a simple prawn cocktail, but it's going to be perfect. Perfect timing. We just punched out. So we are also getting a walnut sourdough, salted butter, and then we're also going to have Irish wheat bread from Northern Ireland.
Wheaten bread.
Wheaten
Northern
bread.
Irish wheaten bread. I'm not going to really eat all of this. I'm never going to eat all of this, but yes.
But the butter is going to be whipped.
Whipped.
Right? Whipped. Mm-hmm. And this is going to be never ending. Somehow, as soon as you take a bite and then you reach in to get another piece of bread, it's still hot. I don't know how it works, but it does work. We don't question it's the fantasy restaurant. And as soon as you finish one, we got to keep it coming because apparently it's integral to every portion of the, somehow you're going to scoop the creme brulee with it. I'm not sure. I don't question. I don't, it's, you do you. Then we're going to move on to our mains. We're going to do a really good spag bowl. Then we're going to have, steak. We're going to do it pretty rare with oh my gosh, what was it? We're going to do fries. You want them to not taste like potatoes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, it's not that no, I didn't mean it that, but I say not the chicken chips.
Gotcha. All right. And then we're going to do scouse. And it's going to be simple. And it's going to be just the way your mom used to make it. Nothing more, nothing less, with pickled red cabbage. And obviously the bread is going to continue to flow. The bread flows like wine, I guess is the best way of stating it. Then we're going to do steamed spinach with pepper. But again, it's pepper to your taste. So I'm not sure. You said loads. I'm not sure if my load is the same as your load. Because I have really crappy taste buds, so I put way too much. So by the time I can taste it, nobody else wants to eat it. So I don't want to ruin anything for you. All right. Then we're going to do a Montrachet, and we're going to have our creme brulee. That's going to be nice, creamy, cold custard, hot sugar on top, good snap, single raspberry, but I'm also giving you a waffle ladder. I will forgo putting it on top. I'll just put it on the side. Okay. Are you happy with said meal?
Happy with said meal. That took a long time. Apologies.
No, I loved it. This is one of I love talking about food. I obviously love eating food. For me, going on vacation is eating food in a place I've never been. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So I go on a little mini vacation through your eyes. I really enjoy it. All right. Well, thank you for joining me in the fantasy restaurant.
Thank you for having me in the fantasy restaurant.